Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. I'm sure most of you have heard already how Remington sold us all out and agreed to accept responsibility for what someone did with one of their products, therefore setting a precedent that gun manufacturers are responsible when people misuse their products. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that because that's the way a lot of people are presenting it, but that's not what happened at all. And I wanted to talk about that today, kind of assuage some fears, straighten up some things that some people seem to think happened that didn't happen. Remington in no way took responsibility for what that monster did with their product. The reason they got sued was because of the way they advertised their products in their waning years when they were not making some good decisions. And that's what they're responsible for. Now, could they have probably gotten out of paying any huge sums of money? Yes, they probably could have. These types of cases usually just end up with a slap on the wrist and told, don't do this anymore, because it was basically a deceptive advertising or dangerous advertising, what they were doing. And that in no way says they were responsible for the actions because that person used their gun. It was just you were using deceptive advertising, targeting vulnerable audiences, shall we say. And that's why they got in trouble. And basically, if you read the actual judgment, it's their insurance companies that are actually representing Remington. Because I don't even know if Remington is still a thing, to be honest. They've been fading away, as we all know. So the insurance companies decided $73 million is next to nothing to them, because I'm sure they deal in billions of dollars every year. And they just didn't want this publicity. They didn't want to be involved in this. So they made the decision to settle for the $73 million. And, you know, if any money is going to go anywhere, I hope it goes to the families who actually lost family members and not to the lawyers, but I'm sure a lot of it's going to go to the lawyers. And if these lawyers aren't working pro bono, I say shame on them. That money should go to the families who lost someone. But it is not an admission of guilt. It is not a precedent that any manufacturer is responsible for anything someone does wrong with their gun or their product. But we have to admit Remington made some bad choices in how they market. It'd be like, let's say tomorrow Glock came out with an ad. And remember, he also used a Glock. You don't see Glock getting sued because they didn't do some of the stupid things Remington did marketing-wise. Let's say, though, Glock did do something stupid marketing-wise. Let's say they made a commercial, and it's a couple of, really streety-looking hoodlums standing, on the street corner in a bad part of town, and you see they've all got Glocks they're tucking into the back of their pants or into the front appendix-wise, and they all look like they're like 16. And they start to walk up to this other group of like 16-year-olds that are on the other side of the street in a parking lot sitting on a car or something. And as they walk over in the ad, you see them pull their guns out and it fades to black and you hear bang, bang, bang. And then the ad says, Glock, we get things done. You'd be appalled. You'd be like, what the fuck are they doing? And that's kind of what Remington was doing. If you saw some of those ads that these people took exception with, I was like, what the fuck are they doing? So I can understand where they got sued for deceptive advertising and targeting vulnerable markets. When you want to think about targeting vulnerable markets, think of it like marketing to children. That's kind of why Saturday morning cartoons went away. They used to put a lot of commercials on there, sugared cereals, toys, everything that was marketed directly towards children, a vulnerable audience. So they were getting in a lot of trouble for that. So advertising dollars were drying up on Saturday morning, so they couldn't market to children. People were saying you can't do that. It's kind of like how Joe Camel had to go away. So a lot of TV stations started deciding, hey, if we're not going to make a lot of profits off the cartoons, let's start using that time to fulfill the requirements we have for educational programming. So they started replacing cartoons with educational shows like Kratts Creatures and things like that. where they didn't have to have big tie-ins to toys that they marketed directly to children, or cereals, sugared cereals that they marketed directly to children. And that's why Saturday morning cartoons went away, because the manufacturers were targeting a vulnerable audience, which there are laws against. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, that means that, a Smith & Wesson can't sell a youth rifle, or another manufacturer can't sell a youth rifle. No, they can, as long as they market it honestly. As long as they market it to the adults and say, hey, here's a gun we made that might be perfect for your 8-year-old or your 10-year-old. If you want to take them shooting with you, if you want to get them into the shooting sports, that's perfectly fine. But if they made a glossy little cartoon about the gun and put it on Saturday morning and tried to convince kids in a very childlike way that they want that gun, that they'd be in trouble for. And that's kind of what Remington was doing. Maybe not with kids, but this is not that difficult of a concept, but I know some people are having trouble understanding it. Let's look at this. If I was making custom guns, I'm a custom rifle manufacturer, and I decide I'm going to put ads on gun forums on YouTube or on the internet and YouTube and everything else. I'm going to put these ads out. And I put out an ad saying, I make custom guns for the modern man who wants to sport shoot or wants to hunt or wants to whatever, home defense. This gun is for you. These rifles are for you. No problem with that. However, if I decide I'm going to go find some weird subreddit somewhere where it's a bunch of people talking about overthrowing the government, killing the governors, and all that other stuff, and I decide to advertise there, and I do an ad where, I'm showing the gun, and then I'm showing, the governor or the president's face in a sight, aperture, well, that's a really bad idea. That was poor judgment. I shouldn't have done that. If something happens, I've probably opened myself up to a ton of at least civil liability, if not criminal. So that's kind of what happened here. Remington made some bad decisions in their marketing. They chose to market something that is not a weapon of war as a weapon of war. They decided to market it to vulnerable audiences, especially young people, which they shouldn't have done. And now their insurance company has said, we don't want to fight this fight, especially since Remington's not exactly a big customer anymore. And we don't want this negative publicity, so we're going to settle. There is no precedent that gun manufacturers are reliable for the products being misused unless they do something egregious. And in this case, they did some things that were egregious. Not enough, I would say, to make them responsible for what some crazy person did with their gun, but to be held accountable for the thing they actually got held accountable for, which is not what a certain person did with their gun. It was the way they marketed it to people like that person. And I hope that makes sense to everyone, because we do not have this horrible precedent now a lot of people think we have. It just doesn't exist. In fact, it's a settlement. It's not even a judgment. So someone can't even cite the case as precedent because it was a settlement. So in some ways, it's even better. If there was any chance they were going to lose this case in court, which was probably about 50-50, because public sentiment wasn't exactly in their favor, and finding a jury that was going to be favorable to them over the Sandy Hook families would have been slim to none chance. Even though that's not how our criminal system is supposed to work, sentimentality is not supposed to be a part of it, we all know it would have been. So this is probably actually the better outcome than if it had gone to court and they had lost. It's definitely better than that. It would have been better if they'd went to court and won, but even then it would have been that mean old gun company making it worse for those families. This is, like I said, it's not a precedent. It's not any way saying that Remington was responsible for a person doing something with their product that was illegal. What they got in trouble for was advertising their product in a way that wasn't realistic, wasn't beneficial, and was targeting a vulnerable audience. And there are laws against that. So basically, that's what the insurance company copped to. That's what they paid for. And like I said, it's not a precedent. It's something I would have rather not see happen, but it's better, in my opinion, than what the alternative would have been. All right, everybody. Surprise! I went over with the first topic. I had a second topic set up here, but I'll save that for tomorrow. I just want to thank everybody for coming. Hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to remind everyone to always carry and stay safe until I see you again.